Come for the bread, stay for the politics. I'm Ben Walsh, and this is Let Them Eat Bread. Welcome to the County Fair, guys. We are preparing our first place loaf of County Fair bread today, courtesy of Beard on Bread. We're going to be doing things a little differently today. We are trying a recipe that does not ask us to proof our yeast, and because my arms are a little sore, I'm going to be doing everything in the standing mixer. So I will show you kind of what ingredients go where, and then I will back up to my stand mixer and show you guys what's going on. Don't worry, the voiceover will cover everything that you need to know for this recipe. In addition, we are going to try our politics segment today without the whiteboard. I got some feedback that people want to see my face as I talk, as opposed to seeing a giant whiteboard and a tiny little me. So we're going to try things a little differently today. That said, let's get started. All right, guys, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take 1 cup of our all-purpose flour and put it in our bowl here. Next up, we're combining 1 package of active dry yeast, that's 2 1/4 teaspoons, with some sugar. It's going to be 1/4 cup of sugar. Lastly, we're going to put in our 2 teaspoons of salt. All right. Once we get these dry ingredients together, we are going to give them just a quick mix here, just enough to combine all of them together before we move forward. Next up, we are taking our butter. This is half a stick or 1/4 cup of butter and putting it in our milk. The butter needs to be cut up into small pieces, and the reason is, oh, by the way, save that wrapper. It's going to be important later. All right, now this needs to go in the microwave. All right, now that it's warmed, the butter hasn't necessarily melted, but that's okay. It will get combined as things mix up. So we're just pouring the butter and milk mixture into our bowl here. Next up, we have our 2 large eggs that are going in here, and then we're just going to mix this all together until it's kind of one liquidy mass. All right, so because we're using the stand mixer, I am putting my stand mixer in here, and we are going to slowly add and incorporate the remainder of our ingredients. Okay, so if you're doing this on a board or in a bowl, you're just slowly add the other 4 cups to 4.5 cups of flour into the bowl, slowly and surely making sure that all of the flour combines to your dough before you add any more, okay? And then we're just going to keep kneading this for a couple minutes until we have a dough that is tacky but not sticky and passes the window pane test. So you're going to see that I'm going to need to stop this dough and check it, and we're going to actually see it right now, and it rips. So no good on that one. We're going to add some more flour here and just put that in as well. And once it's kneaded for a little while longer, we are going to check it once more. And we're also probably going to have to add a little bit more flour. But if you're doing this on a board, just remember our usual techniques about kneading and just keep kneading until it's the right consistency. Add flour as needed. It's going to look like that fails again, and I'll just add a bit more flour here. By the way, at this point, I've added about 4.5 cups of flour to our 1 cup, so 5.5 cups total. All right, so final time. Let us check to see if we have our perfect, and there it is. Window pane test has been passed. We are ready to move on. All right, so we're going to take our dough and just put it out into our board and get it ready for rising. Just get some of that extra dough in there, and we're just going to roll our dough into a nice top ball like we usually do before it rises, just to make sure it gets a nice, good shape. All right, guys, we're getting our glass bowl to raisin. Remember that butter from earlier? We're just going to butter up our bowl and make sure that it is plenty lubricated so that this doesn't stick when it rises. All right, so now in our thing goes, our dough goes, and you're just going to use the last bits of butter on that to just make sure that you lubricate our dough. Flip that a couple of times to get a good lubrication, and then cover up with plastic wrap, just like I'm doing here. Chuck a towel on top, set your timer for about an hour to an hour and a half. I set mine for an hour and 10, and then move on. All right, so we have kneaded our bread. It is currently rising. I've set a timer for just over an hour. Now we're going to move to our politics segment. As I mentioned earlier, there will be no whiteboard this week. All you will see is my beautiful face and all the rest of me, I guess, and my little kitchen as we talk politics this week. As I mentioned on our Facebook page, starting last week, there is going to be one segment of the show that doesn't make it to the cut-ups to encourage people to join the live and to view the whole stream when it goes up. And we are back, and look at that rise. All right, guys, we're going to plop this out onto our board. That was such a satisfying plop, wasn't it? All right, so we're just going to shape this down a little bit, get a little bit of the air out so we're not working with too much air in the bread. Don't worry, it will rise again later. And we're going to weigh it. Mine weighed 50 ounces, 0.9. And we're just going to, again, put that in a taut ball before we cut it. And we're going to divide these by weight, so just make sure you're measuring these until you have 3 of them. We are now going to roll each of these out into long strands. The whole point here is you want to make these strands as long as you can possibly make them for all 3. The reason is because we're making a wreath, or I'm making a wreath with mine, and because of the shape of a wreath, you really need a long strand. So I'm trying to lengthen mine as much as possible. All right, so there's the first one. Just keep going until you have 3 and then combine them. We're just making sure they stayed long, and then we are going to end up pinching the one side of them like so. Just pinch the corners there. And then we are going to carefully and as tightly as possible rolling out the ends each time to make sure we get the longest possible braid out of this. I almost said challah. And again, just rolling things out so it's nice and long. And now we are going to try and form our wreath. And it's circular, not as big or as long as I wanted it to be, but that's okay. We're just going to pinch those ends together, and now we're going to try and make our bow. Because we've got a wreath, we need a bow, because we won first place, of course. So we're just rolling out one little tiny piece of dough that I picked off, and re-rolling because I broke it, and now we're going to make our little ribbon. I did just kind of an overhand with one extra loop in it to make our little ribbon, and we're going to just place that on the smallest part of our wreath. Ta-da! It looks good, right? All right, so we're going to first place even, and we are going to put our plastic wrap back on here with a towel on top. We're going to let this sit for another hour and a half. All right, let this bulge up nice and big, and then you are going to put it in a preheated 375-degree oven right after you paint on our egg white and put on some sesame seeds, make it nice and delicious. You're going to sit it in the oven for about 35 to 40 minutes. I highly recommend turning it about halfway through, and then let it cool on a rack and it'll be done. All right, guys, that's it for this week. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you liked it, throw a like on it, share with your friends, and subscribe for more of our content. You can also find all of our videos and clips on youtube.com. Just search Let Them Eat Bread and you'll find all of our content. Alright guys, see you next time. Bye for now.